Hello BookTube, it's Ben here from the History Fellow channel. I thought for today's video we'd kind of start the bar low and work our way up through the rest of the week. So today's video is about death. It's specifically about death rather than, people committing crimes or serial killers or crimes of passion, that sort of thing. So the books are particularly about death. I got 4 books. They're all published by Pen and Sword Books, so please feel free to give them a visit and have a look at their true crime or even their death section. There's lots of books and the vast majority are a riveting read. So let's get started. The first one's called A Date with the Hangman, A History of Capital Punishment in Britain, and that's written by Gary Dobbs. It's a really good book. Basically it's about the hangman or hanging. Looks at why people were hanged, why they still have that punishment in the UK, and it kind of goes through all the people that were sentenced to hanging. If I just read you this little bit from the back. Details of all 865 people who were executed in Britain in the 20th century. Covers the entire history of judicial punishment from beheadings to hangings. Discover why capital punishment was finally abolished in the UK. And the last little bit is the story of Ruth Ellis, the last woman to be hanged in Britain. So it's really good. I actually found out online because I knew people would be interested. The last hanging was on the 13th of August 1964, and that was a Peter Anthony Allen, who was hanged at Walton Prison in Liverpool, along with Gwyn Owen Evans at Strangeways Prison in Manchester, and they were both hanged for the murder of John Allen West, and they were the last people to be executed in Britain. And the last woman executed was Ruth Ellis, and she was hanged on the 13th of July 1955 in Wandsworth Prison. And then after that, I think it was kind of more of a case of public outcry and less people wanting that sort of execution to happen, that it was finally stopped by vote in the House of Commons. So that's A Date with the Hangman, written by Gary Dobbs, published by Pen and Sword Books. The next one we have is A History of Death in the 17th Century in England. This is written by Ben Norman. This is basically a book at the reasons why people died in the 17th century. It's not necessarily just murder, but it's like diseases and strange happenings. If I read you the chapter headings, you've got the natural death, the soldierly death, the criminal death, and then it looks at the deathbed, a chapter on corpses, coffins and carriages, the common and the noble funeral, royal funerals, and then the unorthodox burial. And then there's a final chapter on remembrance. But that's published by Pen and Sword Books. A History of Death in the 17th Century England, written by Ben Norman, and that's another good book. The next one is an interesting one. It's called The History of Jibberton, Britain's Most Brutal Punishment by Samantha Priestley, published by Pen and Sword Books. And if you've never heard of Jibberton, basically you were sentenced to death, so you were usually hanged, and these were for the people that caused that did serious crimes like murder. Well, murder's kind of as bad as it can get, but they get sentenced to hanging, and then what would happen is they were put into like a metal cage, but this wasn't just an ordinary cage. It was one that was made to specifically fit round the body, and then basically there was a chain on top, sort of above your head, and then you were chained to like a wooden post, and then your body was hanged in this cage from the wooden post, and that was seen as a deterrent to try and deter other people from committing serious crimes or similar crimes. In some cases you weren't hanged first, you were put in the cage first and then hung up in the centre of town sort of thing, and most people, you'd be hanging there for weeks, and most people would be you'd have people throwing things at you, food, veg, salad, birds pecking at you, and eventually you'd be up there long enough that you'd die of exposure from the weather, whether it was hot, cold, midwinter, midsummer. You were just left up there to die, and you were seen as, or the authorities saw it as a deterrent to other people to commit crimes. So that's basically what Jibberton is about, and it's a fascinating book. It might be a bit dark, but it's a really interesting book that looks at Jibberton. And then the last one, Burying the Dead, The Archaeological History of Burial Grounds, Graveyards and Cemeteries, and that's written by Lorraine Evans and published by Pen and Sword Books. This book looks around the world at different styles of burial, different ceremonies, whether people celebrated the death or the lives before, different types of burial, whether it was at sea or in some often rural graveyard somewhere that many people didn't visit, or like particularly in New Mexico, where the dead people are celebrated and their lives are celebrated. So it looks at all the different types of ceremonies, right from sort of almost the beginning of time. It looks into the ceremonies from then. But it's another good book. So that's Burying the Dead by Lorraine Evans. And that's it. That's the 4 books for today. I apologise, it might have been a bit dark, but actually I think most of us are quite secretly interested in death or true crime, that sort of thing. If you're interested in true crime or death and you'd like to tell me about some of the books you've read or your favourite book, then drop us a comment below this video and I'll happily try and find the book. Other than that, thank you very much. We'll try and raise the bar from here and do some lighter videos towards the end of the week. But thank you very much for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And I shall see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.